All right. Okay, mic's up. BGM. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the browser on. I am. Let me see. I forgot to set this up earlier. But that's not a problem at all. What I can do is click this on. Switch to. Not that. Not you. Where are you? Oh, there we are. There we are. Okay. Okay. Riftbound meta. Um. The game is not even a week old out in the West, but in China, it's been out for a few months already, which means that the meta is actually pretty well established at this point. Uh, Hold on, let me get my cards. Because some of this stuff, unfortunately, the stuff that we're seeing out of China means that all the cards are in Chinese, which means that I can't read half this shit. Because I am illiterate in Mandarin, especially if it's written. Quite unfortunate. My upbringing was very, very Western. Why is this Blind Fury in the red section? I also have another thing with the whole issue of the cards being printed in such a way that isn't very conducive to reading them, as the foil version of the red and the orange are very, very close together. So let me put this orange where it needs to be. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be here. Yes. Pretty sure it's an orange card, right? Yes. And that's the red. I do have a Darius. That's very nice. I should pull it out for reference. There's the Cleave. I like pulling out the physical cards I have already to be sure that I'm reading what I'm reading and fully understanding what they actually do. That's Hex Tech Ray. Yeah, this is part. There's one of them. Palti Poro. Excellent. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. You already have Cleave, right? Oh no, I actually somehow didn't pull it out. Okay, perfect. That's good. Duel. See, the fun thing about the game as is that although there is very clearly a top deck, like very, very clearly a top deck, the more I look into the actual meta, the less I think it's just like overwhelmingly advantaged, right? Like this is just a really like privileged aggro deck. And that's nothing new. Aggro decks that I have dozen in most metas, and they tend to be the easiest ones to play during a game's opening state. Because when you only have one box's worth of interactions, then that is inherently disadvantageous to things like control. Or combos, especially. Anything that requires you to have particularly deep synergy is naturally going to work against you. But I feel like that's not so much of an issue for a game in the long term. I think that that's just how things naturally result over the course of a game's lifetime. Eventually, you just start getting some really nasty bullshit because of how cards interact. And if that's not the case right now, no worries. A couple more updates to the game later. It will actually have some inherently strong control elements, inherently strong like combo offs, like 2-card combos that just completely wreak the overall state of the game. Here's the one I was looking for. I was wondering what that did and why that was so advantageous. Everything else I sort of have it memorized. Okay. That's a good basis to start talking about the game. Alright. Okay, right. Also, you put this away because it was also snuck into the red section where it wasn't supposed to be. Right. Why is Kaiso so strong? Well, Kaiso's so strong because she's really fucking efficient. When the game is centered around lane control and adaptive control. It ultimately means that having strong on-curve units matter, not because units themselves necessarily need to fight, but because having a strong presence on the field makes the biggest difference on whether or not a deck is going to be scoring points really, really fast. And Kaisa in particular wants to... The way for Kaisa to win, point number 8, which tends to be the most important point in the game, is to double conquer. The red and blue synergy here is mostly on the basis of... It's mostly a matter of whether or not you can get both lanes at the same time and take over the spot. What are those? Let me see. The middle one over here. Can you even see my mouse? You cannot. Yes, you can. The middle one over here is if you hold, you draw a card. No reckon I haven't memorized the others. Let me look it up real quick. It's all in my box. I shoeboxing everything for you. Mostly by getting rid of my alter cards, because I do not trust the alter TCG business model at all. At least not anymore. Let me see. Yeah, that's Growth of the God Willow. When you hold here, draw 1. The next one is the Dreaming Tree. The first time you choose a friendly unit with a spell here, draw 1. Really? Doesn't feel right. Is it really Dreaming Tree? Why would you choose Dreaming Tree? And the other one is start to peak. When you hold here, you may channel 1 rune exhausted. Like, that sort of makes sense. It doesn't feel as if their battlefield layout is particularly good. Like, let's go over the spells, right? Because a lot of what makes Kaisa good is going to be the spells. Like, you have... Well, the obvious one here is Cleave, which is a 1 mana... Was a 1 rune action. Give a unit... Oh, that's why. Okay. Now I understand. Because Cleave is actually not an attack ability. It is an aggro enhancer. It gives a unit Assault 3 this turn, which is +3 might while it's attacker. So as long as you are aggressive, you're spending 1 for 3, which is by far a very, very good ratio, right? And the other thing you can do is also 3 copies of Retreat, which is reaction, return a friendly unit to its owner's hand, and its owner channels 1 rune exhausted. If that is the case, then yeah, now I understand why you are using the Dreaming Tree. Because the Dreaming Tree just nets you card advantage, right? Yeah, draw 1. Yeah, you just draw through your deck. You are fighting in a battlefield that draws through your deck. Channel 1 rune exhausted though. That one I don't quite understand. Like, this is although you do have some expensive top end spells with Time Winder and Icathian Assault. Time Winder is mostly there just to basically act as an alternate win condition. If you Time Winder when you hold a position and you happen to be on 0.7, you automatically win. That's the next turn. You get 0.8 for holding, and they can't do nothing about because you have not passed turn priority to them, and all their slow spells can no longer be cast. But otherwise, it's just like a really straightforward deck of good things, right? You have, let me see, Noxus Hopeful over here is Legion. I cost 2 less if it's the second card you play this turn. So you can play things like Burning Den with a Void Seeker first, or with the Falling Star, and then Noxus Hopeful is only 2. So that's just like highly efficient aggro, right? You get 2 cards out for discounted amounts. Reckless Researcher. The more spells you play, the more powerful they are. This little dude over here, I forgot what his name is. Mentor, I think it's like a mentor or something. It's basically like when you play him, you draw cards, and he happens to be a tank because he's super annoying, so he has to be the first thing that they fight. This one is the same as Leisure Ruterra, where it's a death knell. When he dies, you draw a card. This little portal, the red portal, is probably the best portal in the game for the simple fact that it has deflect. Opponents must pay a power card to choose me with a spell or ability. So the easiest way to get rid of the portal without taking damage is to put yourself back half a turn by giving up a rune. And for most people, that's just not going to be very, very fun to play into. And then the rest here is like, let's see. Darius is, when you play a second card in a turn, give you +2 might this turn and ready me. So he's just able to just swing aggressively as long as you've played 2 spells. And that's easy when you have a whole bunch of low cost burn effects. Hextech Race, deal 3 use to you at a battlefield. That's great. Thousand-Tailed Watcher is to reduce smite and accelerate so you can get out of fatty whenever you need a fatty. That's awesome. Kaisa herself, I don't have a card for. Red Kaisa, let me look it up. There we are. Oops. Accelerate by Conquer Draw 1. So it's just generic good stuff at 4. And the most important thing is that it's at 4, because in the mirror match, you're facing Hextech Rays, which deals 3 units to a battlefield as an action. They'll need to pull out the Void Seekers for that instead, which does do 4 damage. It also draws a card. But like, at 1 mod for 3 damage is pretty much the threat range you're looking at over here. This is why decks like Ari kind of sucks right now, because Ari's standard card is a 3 might unit, which means that at any time it'll simply die to a Hextech Ray. Or Cleave puts her targets way out of range. Stuff like that. 4 is pretty much the most desirable breakpoint for pure combat math and card interactions. You also see a sideboard that targets big creatures, destroys gear, draws you more cards, puts gives you kill spells at 4. Mech over here is just there for the body, because you can see from the even just from the card here, the card image rather. You see it's a 7-8 ratio, so it's a little undercosted for the effect, but it has no stats whatsoever. It's only there if you happen to need a big body to hold a point. If the thing that's keeping you from defending a point well is simply the size of the body, that's what you would go to. I wouldn't even say that that might not even be as necessary as it looks. Well, maybe, because if I recall correctly, neither blue or red have really strong ways to choose an arbitrarily large target to remove, and that does exist elsewhere. But this is basically why the Kaiser deck is so effective, because it just has low cost, high value action going on. I might even want to build this. Let me see how much Red Kaiser is right now. Now that I'm actually like, okay, well that's priced out. A Coffee and Rain is $50. Kaisa Survivor right now is 60 odd bucks. If you want to buy Kaisa, you're not gonna get a lower cost Kaisa deck before the Houston Regionals, because right now Kaisa, because she is in fact that good, and especially because she can play a 4 power accelerant when I conquer draw 1, that is just inherently very, very high value. Kaisa decks are going to be pretty expensive, and yet, because Darius himself is not that expensive, and because the majority of this are actually pretty common stuff, you're not going to be running. It's not going to break your bank nearly as badly as this next deck. Kaisa is the #1 deck, and therefore the prices for her key cards are pretty high, but she's still not as expensive as the other big deck of the meta. Welcome to the most painful list you can possibly buy. Actually, is this the most painful list? Wait, this version doesn't have Aurora. Oh, fascinating. The highest level. Okay, so each of these are the highest placing versions of that champion from the Shanghai regionals, right? But this version of E just seems like generic good, like a mid-tier aggro deck. It's not actually that impressive in terms of the cost to run this. Fascinating. Yeah, this is in comparison at least, this is a pretty playable Yi. Because, okay, so let me try to find okay, this looks closer to what the current meta is. The most common performant Yi is this deck, or at least some version of this, called the Dazzling. It's the what's the energies called? Oh wait, let's see here. Calm Body Yi is dependent on a card that's right now going for at minimum $100 a piece. Now I'm talking about Dazzling Aurora, where at the end of your turn, reveal cards from the top of your main deck until you reveal a unit and banish it. Play it, ignoring its cost, and recycle the rest. Now, why does that matter? That matters because the majority of Yi's targets are going to be high-cost units. You play a bunch of generic counter spells or stuff to ward off their attack. You use Mobilize and Catalyst of Aeons to ramp as hard as possible. You play Dazzling Aurora, and then you just start dropping big stuff. You drop Carnivorous Snapvine. When you play me, choose the enemy unit at battlefield. We deal damage to our mites to each other. Just wipes out anything at 6 under. You drop an Aviator, where whenever she attacks, you just deal 3 damage to all units in her battlefield. You have Master E just dealing 6 with ganking and turning you ready, so you can just do it right away. White Flame Protector, when you play me, give a unit plus 8 this turn. You only run 2 copies of that because it just needs to make something really, really big. And then the lynch cards are going to be Dead Bloom Predator. You may play me to an occupied enemy battlefield, so that if they plan to be if they look like they may be holding a place, you just drop this and they're no longer holding it because it's freaking 8 health and 8 might. It's an 8 might unit. And Volibear, shield 3, tank. When an opponent moves to a battlefield other than mine, you draw a card. It has 10 might. And that all might seem reasonable until you realize, would you Blade Master Yi, while friendly unit defense alone, it gets plus 2 might. So this is now a 12 might unit. This is a 10 might unit. This is a 10 might unit that gives something else plus 8. This is a 8 might unit. This is a 10 might unit. This is an 8 might unit. That is really, really hard to beat. With the average might in any territory is running about 5 or 6 at most before things start getting a little tricky. Like sure, at the very end game, you might be seeing like 10, 11 might drops to try to force the issue, but the average number of mites per actual encounter isn't nearly that high until about the like 25 to 30 minute mark of the game, when it's already gone pretty late into the round. I'm a thirsty motherfucker. And then there's shit like Confront, so that they always come in ready. There's On Guard, where if they're defending alone, good luck getting past them. Discipline alone is just a really good spell. Meditation, just like if you can exhaust you to draw even more cards and run into stuff. Like basically, the sooner they reach 9 mana, the sooner they can start killing you, which is really, really frustrating. But it is a gambling deck. It is a casino deck. You are basically trying to hit the jackpot on whatever fatty you get out. Now, granted, Granted, that's still a viable strategy. In pretty much any format, the birthing pod effect, which is effectively what Dazzling Aurora is inherently very, very powerful. It's also a deck that fundamentally doesn't care about the recycling effect, because as long as the next one is a big monster, then it's good to go. So yeah, play defenses, try to stay alive, try to hit the 9 mana mark, try to start at least one Dazzling Aurora, and when you do, you just start winning the game because the stuff you send out is too big to deal with. You can make them even bigger. And that's even talking about what happens to the game if you drop 2 Dazzling Auroras. If you drop 3 of them, all 3 of them, you gain 3 units turn. You know how hard is it to defend against 3 of these? Like, even if you lose the single unit defending a territory sense, they're so hard to budge. You probably will get an 8th point through holding. Although it is entirely possible if you get 2 of these Dazzling Auroras out at the same time, you are probably going to win by the odds are very good. You can probably win by conquering as well. You just need to get to that 9 mana Dazzling Aura hand size. And if you can, you're good. It's disgusting. So these are basically the 2 dealing decks. Just like high consistency, high aggro, high interactions, like even interactions with your own units to take advantage of it. It's all good. It's all pretty standard. What was Kai's leader ability again? Oh, right. At par, you only play spells. She basically gets a seal as her leader ability, such that all of these abilities that require you to pay a red or anything is discounted by 1. So you never actually lose the curve, which is really important. Because as a temple-based deck, the curve is pretty much everything. And as long as you can maintain optimal plays with the curve, then you're fine. If you can't, things start to get awkward. But again, that's why she's also just not running a whole bunch of big stuff, right? The biggest creature on her side is 7. That happens to be one of the best characters in the game anyhow. So you're not upset about running him, because once you do, you're probably swinging for the fences. Hold on a second. But the main thing about this is that I don't think her sideboard is necessarily as optimized as I would like it. I would outright replace the mech with another thermal beam. And that's just simply because I don't think there is any universe in which you want there to be a single copy of Dazzling Aurora out, and preferably you can get 2 for 1 out of it. That is insane. Actually, no. Now that I say it, I take it back. You don't want to see any of them at all. If they play 1 at a time, that's fine. Snipe them out 1 at a time. Don't let Dazzling Aurora linger on the field unless you plan to lose. And Kai'Sa does not plan to lose. Kai'Sa plans to win by conquering everything. And they spend all their mana getting creatures out instead. That's also fine. Now, as for decks that I don't think are meta, but are fun. Let me see. The 27th place Misfortune at the National Open is unfortunately just another Dazzling Aurora deck. It just uses a slightly different pool of stuff to draw from, given that purple does have some alternatives on hand to give you. You have acceptable losses. Each player kills 1 of their gears. You have Gust, move you're on a battlefield with 3 or less to its owner's hand. That actually throws them back quite far. Fight or flight, move a unit from a battlefield to its base, so shuffling around to prevent them from scoring. If they have been exhausted, they stay exhausted despite fight or flight as well. So that's actually really, really good, because you know for a fact that you don't need to. You can either force them to exhaust the unit so they can't do something with the unexhausted unit, which is unlikely, or you just force exhausting unit off of a battlefield to prevent a claim or to claim it yourself, because now they're losing on the now they have a deficit on the total might represented on their side of the field. That's pretty good too. Harrowing is basically just play a unit for your trash, ignoring its energy cost, but still play its power. That just basically allows you to recycle these big ones in and out as needed. It's also 3 of each because Mind Splitter is really, really good. And Dead Bloom Predator is the best. It's the best creature card in orange, I believe. And also the couple of Volar Bears. But that's basically the core of it, right? This MF deck is just a slightly different Yi deck owing to color preferences. But the core of it is always going to be orange, because orange is what allows you to play Dazzling Aurora in the first place. And Dazzling Aurora into Dead Bloom Predator is pretty much the sort of play that you're looking for regardless. So everything else is just a matter of battlefield management, right? You have ways to AoE clear. You have multiple ways to accelerate. You have Gust to get them off the field entirely. You have plenty of card draw, so he has to get in. Sabotage is the sort of card that just gets better the more you understand the opponent's deck, because now you know exactly what other hand to snipe. If you see any sort of time warp, get rid of it right away. Note that this has to be a spell gear, or however, it can't be something that's you can't sabotage an individual creature. You also have Unyielding Spirit to negate damage. This one, and probably Primal Strength, are almost certainly targeted at Kaisa decks in the first place, as a way to minimize the amount of damage that your units are taking, or to do away with the damage outright. My personal preference, though, I think there's a different way to build Misfortune. I think especially, so like, purple-orange overlap is such that you basically have a lot of access to ways to re-ready or restand your character, if we borrow from fighting games. Restand your character for another attack, because you can make multiple attacks as long as they are untapped, right? As long as you have a way to untap them for another fight. And a lot of purple and orange stuff have like high or mid value cards that can really take advantage of that. Warwick, for example, is the card that I'm centering that Misfortune deck around in my notes. He enters ready. When Warwick attacks, kill all damaged enemy units here. So what happens if you happen to have flunked a Flurry of Knives? Deal 1 to all units at battlefields. Now they've all taken damage. Now it's really, really easy for you to simply send Warwick in. And if you have ways to re-ready Warwick, and with MF Leader to give him ganking on command, you can sweep out both battlefields at the same time to score 2 conquering points. I double-checked this with the rules lawyers in this community. That does in fact work. As long as you can set Warwick up, Flurry of Blades allows Warwick to solo conquer twice. That is so good. And know that Warwick's effect happens before you deal combat. It's just you initiate the showdown, and now he is an attacker. When I attack, kill all damaged enemy units there, they don't get a response. They don't have a response window. You can maybe sneak something out with a hidden mechanic, but that's not going to keep Warwick from killing everything that was already previously damaged. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Now remember, however, damage does refresh at the end of combat. So you can't simply send in some weaklings to damage the enemy front first, and then initiate a second showdown with Warwick to force the issue. That won't work. That will not work. But pre-damaging them and then sending Warwick in, that 100% works. You can always just ping them. And there are multiple ways to ping the entire enemy team at once, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, that's probably the deck I plan to build. But there's Warwick Game King or Warwick Re-Ready strategy, I feel is stupidly aggressive. It is pretty much a rushdown deck if we were to compare it to like Fighting Game Theory. I think a rushdown deck with Warwick's body might just be enough to match Kaisa beat for beat if you build the deck right, while also making it so that at the late game, when they have Dazzling Aurora out, when they're starting to dig out their fatties to try to control the field, you still have the option of simply having a damage spell plus Warwick to start sweeping out the other side. Although, with that said, you absolutely need to have something in your deck that can handle Dazzling Aurora. Sabotage is good for that, just like forces to recycle. What else? Actually, yeah, that might actually be the main thing. Oh, no, never mind. I would say they are not using nearly enough copies of acceptable losses. Each unit kills one of their gears, and this is done as an action too. So the only way that they can play, oh, that was one off. Never mind. The main point is that I think they should be running 3 acceptable losses between both the main deck and sideboard. Possibly dropping Primal Strength and Misfortune for it. I'm not sure if this version of Misfortune is actually all that useful for this deck strategy, when your whole goal is just to put out big stuff in the right lanes. I mean, yeah, it's a straightforward. It's just a different variant of the casino deck to take advantage of the different colors, right? Other than orange, we're not going purple. It's still green, which is functional. The Mind Splitter is the real thing, though. Let me see. When a player, let me see. There we go. When you play me, choose an opponent, they reveal their hand, choose a card from it, and they discard a card. It's basically discard control. Taking advantage of black, given that black is not in the game. Possession is also a nice way to snatch their best performing unit. Yeah, sabotage is the right choice. You just want to remove the cards from before they start going off. This is also true if they plan to be playing Ari, which is like a C tier deck at the moment, but has some explosive turns. It's very, very easy for Ari Time Miner decks to pop off like 3 times in a row, because yeah, basically just Time Miner Ari scores for an extra point. You double your score allocations through Time Miners. If you can do 2 sets of Time Miners, you pretty much won the game. As for other decks, however, was it right? Teemo. I don't like this version of Teemo. It's the best performing version of Teemo, so I recognize his overall power. And let's like go over what actually makes you strong, right? Like, let me see. Mundo's inherently very strong. Invertilize feeds Mundo very well. Titan is nice. Sprite Call is a pretty necessary play over here. I mean, it's basically just really, really Mundo centric, right? My might is increased by the number of cards in your trash. At the start of your beginning phase, recycle 3 cards from your trash, but you just have so many ways to basically trash cards. or to go through cards and force it to trash. Like Scrap Heat, when this is played, discarded, or killed, draw 1. Traveling Merchants also discard 1 and draw 1. Stack Deck is no good for this, actually. Stack Deck is just for digging in. But yeah, Lincoln Mundo with this deck, when it's going through so much, it's just really, really good. But I feel like it doesn't necessarily take enough of advantage of like Teemo's unique mechanics. The ability to hide multiple stuff. Synergy with any cards with hidden abilities. Teemo is very, very good at not dying. Like by default, Teemo is going to be defending with. Let me see how much. Here it is. When you play me, give me +3 this turn. He has a bunch of ways to retreat Teemo, so you can just get that +4. Oh, you can get the. Is it +3? Yeah. You can get an uncost 4 power effect. That's pretty much it. Like, I think there are better ways to take advantage of Teemo, right? Well, no. Let's be honest. It's the highest rated Teemo, and that means nothing because that was 30th place. The best single performing Teemo deck is a 30 placer, which is respectable. A lot of them will also net you absolutely nothing except for the honor of knowing that you managed to play against seasoned pros. That's pretty much it. Mundo is pretty much a key card here because otherwise you just don't have a late game. You just straight up don't have much of a late game to work with. Yeah, honestly, who could have guessed that blue and purple would have been weaker this time? Lee Sings there was in top 16th, but he was a cheater. God damn it. Also, thank you for the follow. I'm very disappointed to hear that. I'm not surprised, but disappointed to hear that a top 16 Teemo was a fucking cheater. It's always the fucking Teemo players, man. In any format. In League, in QSKO, and now Riftbound. No, I'm kidding. There's nothing inherently evil about playing Teemo. There's just something inherently evil about Teemo himself. I'll put it that way. I am disappointed that a cheater turned out to be a Teemo player. It's not that serious, guys. Until there's like a proper prize pool for these things with Riot money backing it. It's not that serious. Chill. Just enjoy the fucking card game. It's a cool ass card game. I really love it when card games give me like objective control as part of the gameplay instead of just raw stats slugging it out or like obnoxious and unorthodox stack layering of spells. This was a $30,000 tournament. Okay, yeah, it's not serious. Take it back. It's serious as hell. Man, that's good money. Fuck. But yeah. I would say I think I can build a better Teemo deck in this. I'm not saying this out of arrogance. I just think that how I understand card games. Yeah, the unique prize card is honestly going to be the biggest price of it, right? Because like that unique card on the market, all the really rich people that don't want to actually show up and play, but still want to collect the damn cards, they're willing to pay out of pocket for manga cards, for alternate rares, for uniques, the one of ones, the fucking one ring selling for $1 million. If you happen to find a millionaire, like a 100 millionaire influence, if you can convince Mr. Beast to be really, really into Riftbound, you can probably sell one of ones for a couple $100,000. It's just a matter of getting the right names behind it, right? But that still doesn't excuse cheating. Also, it's so hard to cheat with this game. One of the most common ways historically to cheat in Magic the Gathering and One Piece or anything else is to take advantage of the shuffle of the moment that you have to shuffle the deck to try to rig the deck somehow in your favor. And that's really, really hard when they explicitly design the game such that everything goes to the bottom and you never actually shuffle, which I think is a great thing. I think pragmatically and for fair play, designing your deck in such a way that you minimize the amount of shuffling you ever have to do is actually pretty good. It's not just that I don't want cheaters, that's not just a thing. It's also that I'm really fucking tired of facing a combo player that should shuffle 15 times in one turn. That's a slight exaggeration. And by slight, I mean that maybe it's not 15, maybe it's only 10. That's still a lot of goddamn shuffling. That's still a lot of tutors being slung around. That's still a lot of looking at a top 4 and figuring out the arrangement and then putting it back in the deck. There's still a lot of like looking for like a debut card if you're playing Hololive, or looking for a basic card if you're playing Pokemon, or looking for the right land if you're playing Magic. Yeah, I mean, it seems not worth it for being caught because like your entire Riot career is linked to your account when you play this game. Well, you just lost all the money you spent on League skins too. Good fucking luck, buddy. But it's also just like so much harder. So like putting in the effort to cheat in this game seems like such a mess. It also just speaks, it reeks of insecurity that you just don't understand the game well enough to play it on its own merits. And that's disgusting to me. But speaking of which, in Teemo's design for this top 30 Teemo deck, I can sort of understand the appeal of having a Super Mundo just charge in and not care about whatever they're trying to do. He can't die to burn. He can be just as big as anything that Dazzling Aurora sends out. Invert Timeline just is exceptionally good at keeping everything stocked up. But I feel like the mid game for this overall design feels really weak. I feel like it's going to lose to Kaisa a lot before Mundo ever has a chance to do Mundo things, right? Like fundamentally, what are you going to do to keep Kaisa from just accelerating herself to 8 points off this? Like, Final Flight doesn't do enough because Kaisa gets a lot. Kaisa, like, Final Flight into a red portal feels bad. Flash also means giving up territory for Kaisa to conquer. Traveling Merchant is just there for pure utility. Gust into red portal also inherently feels bad. Deflect is inherently a strong mechanic because it does put you behind on your curve. And the further behind you put yourself, the harder it is to get Mundo out. Yeah. And the reason why I say I think it can make it a better deck is because I think that Purple Blue has what it takes to have a what do I call it? A mid-range deck that can match the overall tempo of Kaisa, if not necessarily consistently outbeat her, right? Because like you have these spells to really mess with her math, but you don't have the same amount of kill spells in Blue Purple. It's a more traditional control element this way. But let me see. Oh no, I don't have the deck list actually because I never actually finished it. I feel like there are two things going on with Teemo, right? There is what's it called? Well, the hidden ability by itself is just really, really fun. I think that there's a lot to be said for a hidden focus Teemo that just like spams traps all over the place to really discourage Kaisa decks from trying to get in too aggressively. Because now, like, sure, Teemo might be putting himself behind, but if you're... No, that doesn't need to be true. Because you can just play Seals. Hidden Seal Teemo, I feel, has the potential to be really obnoxious, right? Because if you're using seals to effectively play cards for free as a reaction to anything that Kai'Sa does, that's going to be obnoxious hell. But there's another layer to it. Because Team also has the best colors to access the vision mechanic, which is really, really underutilized except in one specific way. Vision is simply peek in Magic terms, right? You look at a top card of your deck, you can choose whether or not to put it on the bomb or just leave it there. But what if you use peek to reveal Nocturne? Now you have a 4-unit ganker for free, as well as being able to look for the right trap cards to also just play with your seals and slap down and mess with Kai'Sa's entire game plan. Now, conversely, I think that overall strategy, that mid-range trap strategy, will probably have a very, very bad time into Dazzling Aurora. Because I can't think of a really good way to get rid of Volibear, for instance. Or, what was the other one? Definitely suffers into Thousand-Tailed Watcher, that's just inherent. Hold on. That's not it. What was the... here we are. Shinkai National Open. Yeah, somebody posted all the deck lists. All of them. Also, look how bad Garrett... Okay, so this is like the best placement for every single one of the characters, right? Master Yi placed in second is great. He is pretty much, as the general meta has agreed, this is pretty much the second best deck in the format. Kai'Sa is the number 1 deck, it's not surprising. The third best deck is 19th place with Set. Miss Fortune, which is my personal favorite of the stuff that is playable at the moment, was 27th. Going all the way down, unfortunately, my League of Legends main, their best performance is 291st. And Garen is 502nd. That's shockingly bad. That is shockingly bad. Now, there are a couple characters here I think are more of a victim of circumstances than anything serious. I feel that Jinx's overall archetype just gets stronger the larger card pool is. Volibear, as a lot of people know, is mostly just a Kai'Sa counter, but if you lose to literally everybody else, that doesn't feel all that good. Teemo, again, I think can be built better. But Teemo's also a top 30 deck, so it's honestly not doing too badly. What was the deal? I really wish this was the... what was it looking at? Dread something. Can't forget a name. Let me look it up. Oh, Deadbloom Predator. That's what I was talking about. Jesus, I can't forget a name. You play it to occupy enemy battlefield. It's 8th health. It has Deflect, making it impossible to remove. Or at least very, very, very expensive to remove. I feel like Deflect is a great reason to be running seals, because Deflect is probably going to be the most common defensive ability in the game. At the highest level, when you know that you're going to be facing a lot of kill spells, Deflect to make it very, very expensive to interact with you at all is inherently a very, very good thing. It's not necessarily as good as Hexproof, obviously, to use another Magicism, but tempo matters a lot in this game, and the ability to deny your top level plays in order to just survive another turn, I feel is an underrated effect. But yeah, I feel strongly that Teemo cards can be better, that Teemo decks can be better built. Feel that Mundo is probably better into... No, not necessarily. Like, the overall control shell for this game is pretty okay. Fight or Flight is good, right? Flash to deny engagement good. Gust is an underrated card. What was Guerrilla Warfare's effect again? I can't see it yet. The card text is too small. Is that spelled wrong? I'm not spelling it wrong. It's a signature card. Okay, you know what? Maybe if I remove... What do you mean it's not a main deck list? We are. Oh, because I played Leona. Okay, so what if I get rid of Leona? I start that builder over again. Okay, now we can see the... Return to... Oh, that's just return 2 cards from a hidden for your choice to your hand. That just recycles shit. Like, that's important, but it's not like groundbreaking. But yeah. My basic gist is, I think that Hidden Teemo might be a better beta call than Mundo Teemo. Oh, ad starts in about 3 minutes. Whatever. Actually, let me do that because I not plan to go too long tonight. Yeah. I feel like, although the Mundos, especially Mutation Mundo, right? Mutation Mundo is inherently very strong. But I feel like with the current meta, Mutation Mundo is not strong enough. And it's too slow by half. Having to get to 8 energy with this particular suite without orange ramp feels bad. Feels really, really bad. Because that's a lot of turns you have to survive with a really, really aggressive Kaisa making up more than 50%. More than 50% of a competitive format is going to be Kaisa. And more than, I would say 75% is going to be a combination of Kaisa and Yi. Until there are some major changes with Spirit Forged. That's the meta game you have to be able to beat. You have to beat Kaisa in the early game, and you have to be able to somehow outplay Dazzling Aurora, especially in multiples. And either you have to have ways to deny Kaisa's ability to control the field, especially with Deflect. I feel like Deflect's actually really strong into Kaisa. It forces her to give up some late game part in order to minimize your board presence, which is where you want it to be. Or you have to be able to snipe Dazzling Aurora out as a reaction. Or, at minimum, be able to match whatever big body losses they're dropping on the end of the turn and kill the Aurora in time. And enact your own win conditions at the same time. Preferably, that's how you're getting rid of their big body, right? You get rid of their big body by enacting your own win condition, and you're also sniping their gear at the same time. If you can't do that, you're going to lose to Yi. And if you're set up to do that, you might be losing to Kaisa. And this is good enough to beat Aurora decks, but not good enough to keep Kaisa from simply conquering twice to grab 0.8. Now, Victor Control is not something that has a whole lot of problems about holding territory, right? Because if you're generating units and you're casting Riptide Rex and Thousand Tail Watcher to control the fight, I think Victor is maybe like, I would consider the third most complete deck. I'm not going to say the third best deck, but the third most complete overall strategy. Archetype. Let's call it archetype. If we're calling Dazzling Aurora decks one archetype, we're calling Kaisa another archetype, then with at least Dazzling Aurora it doesn't necessarily matter who the actual like leader ability is, right? Whether it's Misfortune, whether it is Master Yi, whether it's Set, the objective there is to use Orange Ramp to start tossing out big shit. This would then be recognizably a third thing, right? It's not the same strategy as it's fundamentally not the same strategy as the other two. It's fundamentally a matter of producing tokens as fast as possible, using things like Soaring Scout and Hidden Blade to gain a massive amount of card advantage, using things like Call of the Week to control the board as well as possible. Call of the Week, especially into Dazzling Aurora, is really, really good because normally this is not going to be a very, very army heavy deck that you're running against, right? Orange decks tend to be focused on big bodies solely, and Call of the Week is therefore a really good way of minimizing their overall presence. Yo, Journey, welcome. This is your favorite deck. This I consider probably the third best archetype. Not the third best deck, because there's so much orange bullshit coming out with big body $100 Aurora cards just spamming out Volibears and Dead Blooms all over the place. But as a third strategy, I agree. This is probably my favorite of the two, because just Kai'Sa is just way too common. But just like generating a whole bunch of stuff, spitting out a grand strategy to finish out the game, that's a lot of fun. And the turnaround potential for this deck is, I think, it's actually also pretty good, because having access to things like Riptide Rex or Imperial Decree is also just a lot of fun. Machine Evangelist as well. Same strategy here. Hidden Blade into Machine Evangelist just produces a whole ton of value. If you think you could lose the fight, you might as well get some value out of it, right? Like, that kind of like reaction is just inherently a fun way to play the game. And the fact that you can also just like sacrifice things to grow Patron for extra value when Victor produces stuff for free. Yeah, Hidden Blade is just too good. Hidden Blade is too good. Yeah, Imperial Decree, Hidden Blade, Yellow Control feels like a really good way to play the game if you happen to be a blue player in Magic, right? Because it's just it's abusing mechanics that seem like they may be symmetrical, like balanced. Like Hidden Blade is supposed to be like knockouts your enemy's target in order, and they get 2 stuff for it. But if you use it on your own stuff, that's a lot better. If you use it on your own stuff, you just get pure value off it. If you have stuff that has death knell effects in particular to take advantage of that, it just feels so good. I would say this is the budget that you go with. It's not too costly. The Thousand Tailed Watcher is probably going to be the most expensive. Actually, no. Let me Thousand Tailed Watcher player. How much is that actually going for? This is probably going to be really expensive because I want to set myself. Fuck! It's like $30 right now. It's not the worst. So much of this is in pre-cons that I think a couple of $30 cards is almost reasonable. Will you regret it in 2 months' time? Yes. Because as soon as that reprint gets out, after the Houston Regionals, I guarantee the prices for a lot of the most expensive stuff will probably drop by half. How much is China in North America? Let's find out. Because I really want to build my Misfortune deck. Oh, that's reasonable. That's just like, yeah, Chiana prices stabilized at least. It gets more pricey if you add Seal of Unity. I agree, but also like this particular deck list was the best functioning deck list out in Shanghai. It's not using Seal of Unity. It's just strictly good stuff. It's just like inherently high value. If you have to pay the occasional tax on power, so be it. You're not really all that reliant on casting multiple grand strategies, for instance. Like, as soon as you play one of these, you're pretty much done. And the most powerful like unit here is only 1 power. Like, that's not setting yourself back by too much. Most of the value in your deck are actually really common staples, and not just staples. We're talking about precon staples. You get a full set of Cruel Patrons in your precon. You get a full set of Hidden Blades, Cold of Weeks, Daring Pearls, Soaring Scouts, I think Legend Gilder, maybe not, but Fallen Comets definitely, and Riptide Rex. These are all precon stuff. This is probably, if I want to recommend anybody getting into Riftbound and playing a competitive, you can probably swing your locals deck and would definitely be victor by a long shot. And if they really, really want to juice, like you get one copy of Grand Stratagem in your precon. So you will find Grand Stratagem to be one of the easiest access rares to get your hands on. And look at the overall value of this, right? Like, you're not playing a whole bunch of scary champions. You're not even playing a unique in here. Sorry, not unique. Signature here, as far as I can tell. Yeah, you're not playing any signatures. Holy shit, you're not playing any signatures. Like, the truly rare stuff doesn't involve itself in this overall strategy. Damn, that's really reasonable. Yeah, this is the go-to budget deck. This can show up to a regional and swing like top 30 easy. This can show up to your locals and probably win the night. Because I would say, although there are some inherent weaknesses, especially into Kaisa's Icathian Rain, which will wipe out your entire formation by itself. There are ways to play around it. Especially if you simply slide in multiple machine evangelists, which will probably be the next most expensive. Actually, no, how much are those? It's not called Evangel. They're 99 cents. Yeah, this is the answer into Icathian Rain, which is a counter to your deck, is to sign in machine evangels to make it like any sort of death knell effect, really, to make it costly to wipe out your position, right? What was Shen's effect again? Let me look it up. Like, I know Leona's. Leona is really, really good against big stuff. Shen is simply shield, tank, and reaction. Okay, so that's just generically good against aggro decks, right? Vengeance just straight up kill unit, which is good against. Well, yeah, actually no. I think this actually works fine against Kaisa. Yeah, it works fine against Kaisa. It's just that Dazzling Aurora is still going to be a problem. I hate that card so much. I feel like Dazzling Aurora is inherently just a... Birthing Pod is hard to balance against. It's very, very popular amongst tournament grinders. That entire era was the Birthing Pod era. Because it allows you to play some really splashy, like dramatic effects for discounts, right? And that's inherently a lot of fun if you happen to be the Birthing Pod player. If you're not the Birthing Pod player, it feels cheap as hell. I do know. Well, there's basically two ways to look at this, right? It's not that it doesn't. It's not that it wins against Kaisa. It's that it has good game plans against Kaisa. But Kaisa ultimately does have a very significant edge on her ability to control the pace of the game. Whereas this is always going to be like a step behind, trying to find a turnaround point against Kaisa's overall strategy, which it can. If you get the right draws at the right time. Especially Cruel Patron being a discount for 6 might is pretty obnoxious. But like, Kaisa has a lot of ways to keep you from having much of a board presence too, right? Which is going to be a really, really annoying thing into red-blue. And into multiple Dead Bloom Predators, you're just going to have a really rough time overall. And Volibears. Not to mention the Volibears. At that point, you may actually have to start using Hidden Blades to keep them off the field. Which gives them more cards, which makes it really obnoxious to play against, which is just a whole damn thing. but it's pretty playable. I am not. If there is something I want to complain about the way that China's playing the game right now, I would say that their treatment of battlefields doesn't feel particularly optimal. Oh, there's an ad break. Yeah. Give me a second. Let me think. Ad break's about a minute, so let me just run the clock a little bit. Let me look through my battlefield options here. Hold here, draw a card. Conquer ready 2 runes. Win the game. Defend. What is your card? Moves from here. Hold here. Conquer. Player gains 1 point. Activate Conquer effect. Doesn't have a lot of Conquer effects. Spell abilities affecting units. Defend here, move friendly here to base. Make here as ganking. Roll here, draw 1. Conquer for Jinx. Challenge 1 rune. Plus 1 might. Conquer ready 2 runes. 7 plus, Grand Plaza. First time you choose with a spell? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the way that China set up its meta. Obviously not a buff one. Because I feel like they are underutilizing battlefield effects for asymmetrical advantages. Like, what's the asymmetrical advantage here for running Trifarian War Camp? You both gain that +1. It doesn't make things any easier. Valmal's Lair feels like an interesting way to trap key targets. If that was actually something you care about. The Arena's Greatest feels like a card that Kaisa will want to run over Victor, because Kaisa is inherently a faster tempo, whereas Victor has a lot of stuff that requires you to set up for more powerful hits. I feel that if you're going to be running a yellow deck with Hidden Blade and Retreat, and especially with Facebreaker. Yeah. Facebreaker, Hidden Blade, Retreat. Why aren't you running the Dreaming Tree? The first time you choose a friendly unit with a spell here, each turn draw 1. Return a friendly unit to its owner's hand. Its owner channels 1 room exhausted. Kill unit in the battlefield. Its controller draws 2. You can also kill your own unit. Stun a friendly unit and enemy unit at the same battlefield. You have multiple ways to trigger Dreaming Tree. And this deck runs instead. Everybody gets +1 might. I mean, sure, technically. So the way to make Trifarian War Camp asymmetrically advantageous for you is to be running a lot of recruit units, right? To be able to summon a whole bunch of them. There's a lot more units gaining the War Camp bonus than there are from a Dazzling Aurora deck, for instance. So strictly speaking, Trifarian War Camp into Aurora decks possibly makes sense, especially in game 1. But it doesn't make so much sense into other decks that also happen to run a lot of units, like Kaisa. Or decks that can AoE your units, such that you don't get the War Camp bonus, like Kaisa. And Arena's Greatest, yeah, you don't. I guess you can say that Valma is your neutral territory then, right? Because Arena's Greatest into a slower deck like Dazzling Aurora might make sense. I don't necessarily think that is true. I feel that Trifarian War Camp is your answer into Dazzling decks. But I can sort of see why you want to use Arena's Greatest to try to get the 8th point advantage sooner rather than later. But again, that just like links to how I feel about their battlefield usage, right? It just doesn't feel like that's a strong answer. But then what would I use as the alternative to two roots at the end of turn. Use the point to win the game by 1. In shield combat. Like if there's going to be an anti-Kaisa battlefield, fortified position might be better because by nature she is an assault heavy deck, so like things that give you defensive bonuses makes it easier for you to resist assault. I think there may be... maybe not. Ganking. I feel like Windswept Hillock might be a decent neutral position. Because since you're generating so much more units, ganking is going to be a little easier for you. Maybe. Do I not have... what's it called? Monster Hirana, Targus Peak. Do I somehow not have... I might be missing something. Hold on. Let me see. What was the sigil of the storm? Let me go through a deck builder again. Here we are. Okay, battlefields. Oh, Halo Tomb. This one I'm looking for. When you hold here, you may choose trash. Oh wait, well you're not playing. I forgot. You're not playing champion. You have no chosen champions. You don't even have a victor somehow. Which, no, you do. You do. You have your level victor. Oh, actually, no. That does make sense. Yeah, yellow victor as a response to windows of play for burn spells, especially AoE burn spells. It's a very, very inherently strong answer because it just basically lets you rebuild. No, I heavily feel that if you're going to be running into a Kaisa-centric meta, 4 or 5 position gives you an inherent advantage because a lot of Kaisa is based around aggressive attacks, right? She's trying to conquer twice. If you have shield, if you have shield 2, if all of your units have shield 2, which she's trying to conquer, it's going to be really hard for her to get point number 8. Whereas, because she generally isn't trying to hold position very hard, Shield 2 doesn't benefit her nearly as much as it benefits multiple recruits, right? She doesn't get it's an asymmetric advantage over there. And if you're fighting against Charles Rune, buffer you here. If you're fighting against, let's see, Arena's greatest into Dazzling still doesn't feel like it's particularly safe, right? Like, sure, Dazzling does take a while to set up, but it's the second best deck because if the second best deck is a relatively slow strategy, but it can still win games against Kai'Sa, it means that whatever it's using can, in fact, stall out another aggro strategy as well, by definition. So Arena's great is to narrow the clock against a birthing pod deck doesn't feel good enough. So it'd be something like Dreaming Tree instead, where I feel very, very strongly that Dreaming Tree is the neutral battlefield that you want to pick for your game one. Because so much of your abilities is self-targeting anyhow. Well, Dream Tree, yeah, it's a spell, not just a spell here. But yeah. Imagine Hidden Blade on Sorry Scout under Dreaming Tree. You're getting 3 cards in the room for that. That negates the rune you use to play Hidden Blade in the first place. It gives you all the card advantage in the world. That's so nice. Yeah, they should be doing that. What the hell? But yeah. Overall, just so that I'm not rambling forever, because I plan to upload an edited version of this VOD later onto YouTube. This is definitely what I would go for as a competitively viable budget deck. It's not too expensive. The most expensive thing here is the Thousand Tail Watcher because every single blue deck is running Thousand Tail Watcher. This is the best blue creature in the game by a long shot. But everything else in here is pretty damn affordable, if not just outright in the pre-con. I have a Yellow Victor from playing in the release event as well. I might build this. I might just build this myself. It is a good deck. It's a competitively viable deck. It gives me a reason to play Leonas, which I am quite happy with because I love playing Leona. Leona, by the way, over here would just outright replace Evangel and Riptide Rex into big body decks. Because 6 is not going to be enough. You're going to replace Singularity with Vengeance. And possibly Shen. Maybe not Shen. Shen's more like an anti-aggro strategy. But definitely Vengeance and Leona are your sideboard material 2 for. Yeah, 8 cards. So Vengeance Leona is your sideboard into Dazzling Aurora. Simply because these are the wrong colors to outright snipe gear, unfortunately. Kind of sad about that, to be honest. Whereas into Kai'Sa, it would be Shin, Sprite Mother, and Machine Evangel. Probably replacing, let me see. Maybe Vasco Faye. No, not really Vasco Faye. Possibly replace the Imperial Decrease against Kai'Sa, actually. She's a lot more likely to damage you than the other way around. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. So 2 Imperial Decrees and yeah, I guess probably something like Riptide Rex and Blastcone Fade. You swap those out as well as the Imperial Decrees into Kaisa, and then you have a solid game plan. But yeah, China's battlefield meta seems a little sketch to me. I feel that's really underdeveloped, at least underconsidered for the format they're facing. But the overall design for this seems like it has an outside chance of being like it's basically the dark horse budget choice, right? I feel there's also a world where Teemo is also really playable. It just has I would need to look into what the blue purple options are against Dazzling Aurora again, because I feel like that's inherently going to be the biggest problem into like how do you handle big bodies where you're mostly geared towards like small body control or like tempo mid range control. That is the deck battle challenge. That's what makes it fun. Also, I feel like the problems with Yi and Kaisa are so obvious that either Spirit Forge or whatever set that comes after it is going to have inherent skew towards other strategies, either for the champions that are going to be included in it, or for existing archetypes, right? Like, blue's probably due for weaker cards in general. Orange as well, because ramp is a little too powerful. I think yellow is an overall good position. I guess that leaves like green, purple, and red will probably see some key upgrades coming into sets 2 and 3. Would be my prediction. So what will that entail? Man, look at this. This is just like a field of Kaisas. I'm gonna get rid of the... Here. They're dead. Okay, time for Legends. So like, okay. I feel like green's definitely gonna get a buff. Blue's already pretty good. So overall, if green gets a buff, that gives Ari inherent buff as well. Discard strategies are always going to be centered around the depth of the card pool. But both red and purple are probably due for some upgrades as well, because the overall strength for Kaisa is mostly in her blue spells. Red is just mostly to knock down key targets, which is generally fine. I feel that the stun archetype in particular really needs a few upgrades. And green in general hasn't been too good about its overall strategy. Well, Yasuo definitely has one of the worst a lot as a result. What was Garen's effect even? Okay, if you when you conquer, if you have 4+ units that at that battlefield draw 2, and he's in the wrong colors. Well, no, he's in the right colors. Actually, no. Is he? Is he? He has ramp. He does have wasted. He has the wrong ability to really take advantage of it. I think he's just in the wrong archetype, really. Yeah, he's definitely in the wrong archetype, because Orange's skew is so heavily towards ramping into big effects that it feels like a conquer focus that needs you to spam out 4+ units just to draw 2 cards is just inherently a bad ability. Such that even if your overall deck is okay, the fact that you have a blank leader is just not good. Especially in the current meta. There's so much removal in this game. Like, there's plenty of removal in red and purple. There's plenty of removal and there's just a lot of removal in blue. And Kai'Sa's economy and range just makes it impossible to trigger Mind of Demacia. Because again, it's not if you're attacking with 4+ units. It's if you successfully conquered that area with 4+ surviving units at the end of your fight. That's especially why Garrett is so bad. I don't think there's a way to buff Garrett. I think it's just that he is held back by his own ability. And this is just inherently bad. But like cards like Jinx that wants you to discard a lot to enable stuff that cares about the graveyard size. I think the only thing is that she should have been in blue somewhere. Like either red blue like Kai'Sa, unfortunately, which is not going to happen because Kai'Sa already had that lockdown and they want original combinations, or blue purple, which unfortunately is a Teemo thing. But maybe putting Mundo should have been in purple. I think that's the thing. Mundo should have been in purple if you really want Jinx to work, because Jinx and Mundo is inherently synergistic. You want to be discarding to make Mundo as big as possible, and Loose Cannon with all of her abilities that also forces discards for extra effects just makes a lot of sense there. Although I guess, yeah, because Annie is also in red purple. But Annie is just burn spells galore, because at end of turn you guarantee that whatever's in your hand can be cast reactively at the next turn. She just lets you play in the opponent's action phases. Or as a reaction. I don't think Lee Sin's necessarily a bad spot. He's just the whole buffing of friendly unit focus. The more cards that care about buffs, the better that Lee Sin's going to be. Right now, he's sort of in the middle of the field, waiting for a few like keystone cards to really make him effective. Whereas Leona is sort of in the same position with the caveat that the launch pool just doesn't have enough stun support in general, at least not competitive stun support. And I really wish she had stun support, because I really like this art, and she's my main in the game. I want my support main to actually have something. Lux is in a similar position where she is bad because of the lack of support. There are cards in here that can it's basically a card it's basically a mono rock. It's a mono rock. The 3 mono rock, so it's not too efficient, but it lets her play the spells for effectively discount. But when you play a spell that costs 5 or more, draw 1. If she had more spell play support, especially if she had more 5+ spell support, I feel that Lux might actually be a possible beneficiary of a bigger overall card pool. Especially when she's in blue-yellow, which is just great for like strictly like traditional control play in Magic, right? She has what it takes to be a control deck. It's just that she needs more spells. Right now, she just needs more spells. Anything in orange is playable. Period. To some degree or the other. Just because it can play ramp, it can play Dazzling Aurora, and any other color you attach it to, you just add access to the big creatures in that particular card pool to play. So, well, I guess the main exception here is Volibear, because for whatever reason, the card pool for Volibear doesn't give enough to work with. Oops. There. Oh, that's why. Okay, that explains why. Because Volibear, so every other deck brings a little extra something to the fight, right? Like, if you're playing set, let me see, what was it? set readies himself when he conquers. Set keeps buff units safe by sacrificing that buff. That's overall good. Misfortune allows you to gain to control the battlefield. Master Yi just makes it impossible to go aggro against him because all defending units basically, if Master Yi with a fortified position gives +4 to his defending units, it's really, really hard to knock Master Yi out of position. Lee Sin is just waiting for more buffs overall. And then you look at Volibear, whose ability doesn't kick in until you're already playing big 5+ might units. And at that point, if you're already playing ramp, you're not going to be spitting out 5+ might units from hand, right? To generate more runes. You are already accelerating yourself to 9 runes and casting Dazzling Aurora, at which point your total number of runes no longer matter. And that is why Volibear, I feel, is the weakest of the orange decks. Now, can you still make an Aurora deck around Volibear? Yes. In fact, let me see what his red units options are for him. Card types, units, 5+. And let's see, red only. I mean, he has access to himself. Countergrading the Inferno is not the worst option out of Dazzling Aurora. Actually, yeah, that's pretty good. Trinamir gives you the opportunity. Okay, Trinamir as a cyber card is pretty interesting. Brynhir Thunder Song is not good with Dazzling. When you play, the opponents can't play cards this turn. If you play Brynhir out of hand, you make things really, really tough for Kaisa. But because Dazzling Aurora doesn't trigger until the end of your turn, when you announce that your turn is over and now you get a free unit, that just passes priority. Like, you play the unit and then it's the opponent's turn, and now Thunder Song is just a vanilla 5 might for 6, which is not great. What else? Yeah, Magma Warp is okay. Trinamir is probably the best thing out here. Yeah, you're really only accessing Volibear, which is really, really strong. Let's be fair. Volibear is inherently hard to shrug off. Categorizing the Inferno to just draw cards as a follow-up play, that's not bad. But it's not as good as Dreadbloom Predator. And Mind Ripper especially is really, really nasty to come out purple. The main reason to play Misfortune or Dazzling Aurora, or Dazzling Misfortune rather, is specifically to play Mind Ripper out deck for free. Straight up. But it's not bad at all. Volibear especially is... Volibear is a very, very strong anti-tempo deck. Anti-tempo effect. Because Deflect 2 with 9 might, it's just inherently hard to shrug off. But, well, that's the thing, right? Volibear into another Dazzling deck doesn't feel too great. Trinamir into another Dazzling deck doesn't feel too great. Any of these running into yellow, in particular, feels like an inefficient strategy. Especially with Cold and Weak possibly hitting Volibear for like 1 mana. And Deflect won't even matter. So it makes it so that it's a hard Kaisa counter at the cost of beating everybody else. Which Granted, might be the right call. But are you really going to spend upwards of $300 for Dazzling Aurora to play Volibear to win one matchup and possibly lose to Yi? Because 9 might sound impressive until you realize that 4 or 5 position Master Yi gives all of his stuff +4. Possibly beating 9 by a safe margin. And possibly negating his attack damage split as well. And then Volibear just eats like a charm and gets yanked out of the battlefield entirely. That's hilarious. Charm is such a hilarious card. Any card that forces a reposition is inherently really fucking funny. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like red offers much to the dazzling strategy. Because it's not as if red gives you ramp. I guess the main thing is that it protects you from faster tempo strategies while you're setting up. Which is why you just kind of slaughtered Kaisa in general. Because you burn all her stuff and then everything you put out just makes the game even worse for her. But against anybody that either has death knell effects, or has like mid-range stuff it can shrug off 3 hits. And then start spewing things that can match pace with these guys. Just doesn't feel as good. But yeah. Anyhow, long and short of it, I feel that if you want to enter the game without breaking the bank, go with Victor, possibly Teemo, possibly why I'm calling the Warwick build for Misfortune. So I feel that one's really, really fun. If you want to win tournaments, your best bet is Kaisa, which is still going to cost you a couple hundred, or Master Yi, which is going to cost you at a minimum, I mean at minimum, $600 to $800. Or you can wait 2 months. You can also do that. Once we figure out what's in Spirit Forged, the price of a lot of cards are going to chop in half. The price of some other cards might increase, especially for staples, running into different archetypes to match the heroes that are coming in with the next set. But more importantly, Riot did promise that they're going to be on top of the ball with the print run. And that this current supply side issue will not persist for the game. That they don't plan this to be like Gundam, where it's still impossible to find product in most stores. Thank God they want to be better than that. And hopefully by wave 2 and onward, they'll also solve the quality assurance issues where all the non-signature or over-numbered cards are all fuzzy on the edges. Like literally fuzzy. Because somebody didn't sharpen their fucking knives when they cut these cards. That's frustrating. I mean, I'm glad, very glad, that the stuff that costs money, that is collectible and will accrue value the more popular the game gets, does have some Q&A going on. But how did Universes drop the ball so badly on literally everybody else? Like if I pull up my shit right now, this pile of battlefields that I've been looking at to like identify possible strategies, every single one of their edges from top to bottom and side to side have a bit of fuzz on it. So I have a little bit of peach fuzz, as if they were prepubescent male students, not prepubescent, barely pubescent male students running around with their first mustaches ever. It's that fuzzy. But yeah, hopefully they fix it. Anyhow, that's pretty much all for me. I'm going to go look for somebody to raid. Possibly, let me see. Who is streaming tonight? Oh, right. Oh, well, no, I raided Mayfair last time, so let me see. Oh, right. Jesse and Lan are playing Coral Island, so I'm going to send you off to my friends to enjoy the rest of the night. do say hi to them on my behalf. Oh, I can do it from OBS. Here, let me fix that. Here we are. All right. Yeah. They're playing a nice, calm, chill sword game, so that'd be a good way to end the night because it is getting pretty late. And I will see you tomorrow for some 2x KO. Because now that we know what's going on with it, oh, I forgot to go over patch notes tonight. That's right, I'll do tomorrow. Yeah, well, do some 2x KO tomorrow. I will be going to some Riftbound locals this weekend to report on how the local meta is developing, and we'll go from there. If you're watching this from YouTube, please follow, subscribe, etc. On Twitch. Just look on social media. I'm all under Lucian Center, so easy to find me. I'll see you next time, and as always, my friends, eat well.